Good morning.
Madam Deputy Speaker.
Let us pray. Almighty God, where you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and will promote the interests of our people. Almagtige God, ons bid dat u gedurende ons vergaderings ons die nodighede van wysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou, en dat u ons sal help om ons tekortkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikelele Elizwe letu nabanto balo, omesile ukulungu kipondo letu. Nkosi sikelele Afrika, Kaitina abantwana bayo, kokela inkokeli zayo, yinike kolo Afrika. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. Order. You may be seated. You can just hold that out. Good morning to all our members of this provincial parliament. Very warm welcome to all of you. Today we will be using the hybrid model for the sitting of the House. We have members both in the chamber as well as members online, and I trust that all our members have been connected and can participate in the sitting today. I'd like to just check and remind yourselves that you are to be muted in terms of the rules that we have prescribed. To a reminder to all of you that those that are sitting via the hybrid model, language translation services are available in the chamber as normal and in Microsoft Teams via the respective channels. Honourable members participating in the sitting of the House must please access the language translation services via a second device such as your cell phone. And if you are using earphones, you may use it for the language translation services. And finally, as ruled by the presiding officer in the sitting of the House on the 23rd of April 2020, no interjections shall be permitted during the debate. In this regard, I'll also wish to draw the attention of honourable members to Rule 40 of our standing rules. I now recognise the Chief Whip.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I move without notice, notwithstanding the provision of Rule 18, that the hours of sitting on Thursday, the 26th of November 2020, Wednesday, the 2nd of December 2020, and Thursday, the 3rd of December 2020, shall be from 10 a.m. to adjournment. I so move.
Any objections? No objections? Agreed to. I now recognise the Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I move that the appointment of Advocate P. Burgess as Registrar of Members' Interests in terms of Section 3 of the Members of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament Code of Conduct Act 2, Act 3 of 2002, from 1 December 2020 to 30 November 2023, in accordance with the conditions in the advertisement, be confirmed. That the House further confirms that in the event that Advocate Burgess does not accept the appointment, or if the position of the registrar becomes vacant within 6 months, the recommendation of the interviewing panel be implemented. I so move.
Are there any objections to the motion? No objections. Agreed to. I now recognise Honourable Allen.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I move without notice that this House congratulates Mr. Kolisa Kwinana on his nomination for the SABC Crown Gospel Awards in the category Song of the Year for the song Uya Sondla. Mr. Kwinana is the first gospel artist to be nominated from the Western Cape with other legends in the gospel music industry, and we wish him well in his competition as well as in his future endeavors as a gospel artist. I so move.
Are there any objections to the motion? No objections. Agreed to. I wish to take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Kolisa Kwinana to our proceedings today and also extend well wishes to him in his future endeavours. The Secretary will now read the order of the day. Hand over to the table staff.
Introduction and first reading, Western Cape Second Adjustment Probation Bill, B7, 2020.
Thank you. I recognise the Honourable, the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honourable Speaker and Deputy Speaker, Honourable Premier and Cabinet colleagues, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Leaders of Opposition parties, Executive Mayors and Deputy Mayors, Honourable Members of the Western Cape Legislature, Members of the Consular Corps, Heads of Departments, Municipal Managers, Special Guests, and of course the people of the Western Cape. When Premier Alan Winde delivered his special address in this Parliament a month ago, he outlined a recipe for real change in the Western Cape, which was aimed at ensuring that every single person, no matter who they are or where they came from, could live a life of dignity, because the life of every person matters in the Western Cape. To guide our work and to improve people's lives, Premier Alan Winde chose to focus on 3 North Stars, on jobs, on safety, and on well-being, to deliver a recipe for real change in the Western Cape. So I am pleased to announce that we have mobilized a combined 1.4 billion rand support package for jobs, for safety, for well-being in this financial year, so that we can bounce back in the Western Cape. On jobs, we have allocated an additional 155.9 million rand to support small businesses by accelerating basic maintenance and repair of infrastructure at schools in the Western Cape. We have allocated an additional 12 million rand to support small businesses which have been hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. And we have allocated an additional 8.5 million rand to support businesses in the wine industry which have been hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic in the Western Cape. And we have done so because when people have jobs, people have dignity. And when people have dignity, people have hope. On safety, we have allocated an additional 36.5 million rand to keep our children safe by accelerating the fencing of schools in the Western Cape. We have allocated an additional 20 million rand to appoint young people as safety ambassadors to drive violence prevention interventions. And we have allocated an additional 15 million rand to improve the collection of data at emergency centres to support evidence-based violence prevention in the Western Cape. And we have done so because when people are safe, people have dignity. And when people have dignity, people have hope. On well-being, we have allocated an additional 4 million rand to appoint young people to support the development of literacy and numeracy at early childhood development centres in the Western Cape. And we have done so because when people are empowered, people have dignity. And when people have dignity, people have hope. What is important to notice, of course, is that these are additional allocations over and above what has already been provided in departmental budgets in this financial year in the Western Cape. What this means, for example, is that we have mobilized a total of 39 million rand to support small businesses hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, which is made up of 27 million rand in the first adjustments budget and an additional 12 million rand in the second adjustments budget, and which will support 230 small businesses and save at least 2,000 jobs in the Western Cape. We have also received welcome funding from national government to support jobs, safety and well-being in the Western Cape, which includes an additional 814.2 million rand to employ education assistance and general assistance at schools, an additional 61.2 million rand to employ people to work on maintaining roads, an additional 53 million rand to supplement the salaries of employees at early childhood development centres, an additional 51.2 million rand to provide food relief to people who are hungry, and an additional 29.1 million rand to employ more community healthcare workers in the Western Cape. We have mobilized a combined 1.4 billion rand support package for jobs, for safety, and for well-being, so that we can bounce back in the Western Cape. And we have done so because, as Premier Alan Winde put it, when you have a job, when you feel safe, when you are treated with dignity, you create hope. They are all interlinked. Without one, you cannot achieve the other. Together, they are the recipe for real change in the Western Cape. Speaker, 2 weeks ago, the Minister of Finance, Tito Mboweni, delivered the medium-term budget policy statement, drawing on the gospel according to John, chapter 12, verse 35, warning us that, and I quote, "You are going to have the light a little while longer. Walk while you have the light, before the darkness overtakes you. Whoever walks in the dark does not know where they are going." Well, Deputy Speaker, we are in deep economic trouble, and the darkness is in danger of overtaking us faster than we may think, with stagnant economic growth, stunning revenue shortfalls, exploding budget deficits, and staggering national debt in South Africa. To stabilize national debt over the next 5 years, national government has imposed additional budget cuts over the medium term of 62.9 billion rand in 2021-22, 92.9 billion rand in 2022-23, and 150.9 billion rand in 2023-24 in South Africa. To national government's credit, the budget cuts have been designed to shift the composition of expending from consumption to investment, with spending on compensation of employees increasing at an average annual growth rate over the medium term of 0.8%, from 639 billion rand in 2021-22 to 655 billion rand in 2023-24, and spending on payments of capital assets increasing at an average annual growth rate over the medium term of 7.8%, from 100.8 billion rand in 2021-22 to 111.5 billion rand in 2023-24. The budget cuts are drastic, with national government proposing to reduce spending on compensation of employees by 310.5 billion rand over the medium term via a wage freeze between 2021 and 2023-24. However, despite these proposed budget cuts, national debt explodes, by 984.4 billion rand over the medium term, from 4.5 trillion rand or 85.6% of GDP in 2021-22 to 5.5 trillion rand or 92.9% of GDP in 2023-24. And national debt is now expected to stabilize at a staggering 95.3% of GDP in 2025-26 in South Africa. To illustrate the scale of the problem, consider the fact that national government will be spending 353.1 billion rand on debt service costs in 2023-24, which is 125.8 billion rand more than national government will spend on social protection in this financial year in South Africa. However, Deputy Speaker, all the risks to the economic outlook are on the downside, including the speed of economic recovery, the implementation of proposed budget cuts, and spending pressures from failing state-owned enterprises like Eskom, which is why almost no one believes that national debt will stabilize, and it is why now, for the first time in a long time, we face fiscal doom and are at significant risk of a debt crisis over the medium term in South Africa. Which makes it, Deputy Speaker, so hard to understand why national government has agreed to a 10.5 billion bailout for South African Airways. Staggeringly, the provincial budget has been cut by 86.6 million rand in this financial year to finance the bailouts, including a cut of 30 million rand to the National Tertiary Services Grant, which is critical to us maintaining and developing healthcare services at our tertiary hospitals. A cut of 23.3 million rand to the Title Deeds Restoration Grant, which is critical to our project to restore dignity to the elderly, those with disabilities and backyard dwellers through the transfer of land ownership. A cut of 19.7 million rand to the HIV, TB, malaria and community outreach grant, which is critical to delivering an immediate and effective response to diseases such as TB, HIV and malaria. A cut of 11.5 million rand to the statutory human resource training and development grant, which is critical to health science trainees and the increased capacity of our healthcare workforce. A cut of 1 million rand to the Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program grant, which is critical to providing effective agricultural support services to smallholder and black commercial farmers, promoting and facilitating agricultural development by targeting beneficiaries of land reform, restitution and redistribution. A cut of 492,000 rand to the Letsema Projects grant, which is critical to reducing poverty and supporting food security by investing in infrastructure that assists vulnerable farming communities to increase their production output. A cut of 453,000 rand to the mass participation and sports development grant, which is critical to the well-being of and health of our communities by facilitating participation in sport and recreation activities. And a cut of 60,000 rand to the Land Care Program grant, which is critical to supporting food security by working with communities to sustainably manage natural resources for agricultural production in the Western Cape. Which, Deputy Speaker, is simply wrong. And what makes it worse is that the 10.5 billion rand bailout is highly unlikely to be the last bailout of South African Airways. Deputy Speaker, we plan to spend 71.3 billion rand in 2021-22, 72.5 billion rand in 2022-23, and 73 billion rand in 2023-24 in the Western Cape. However, provinces have not been spared from the drastic budget cuts, and the fiscal axe has fallen, with spending on compensation of employees being cut by 23.7 billion rand over the medium term between 2021-22 and 2023-24, and spending on non-compensation of employees being cut by 3.1 billion rand over the medium term between 2021-22 and 2023-24, which means the provincial budget will be cut after adjustments for provincial equitable share formula data updates by a massive 25.2 billion rand over the medium term between 2021-22 and 2023-24 in the Western Cape. Deputy Speaker, to make matters worse, the provincial budget has been cut by 2.3 billion rand, assuming that a wage freeze imposed by national government, which has not been agreed to by the public sector unions, will hold in 2020-21 in South Africa. However, if the dispute between national government and the public sector unions, which will come before the Labour Court on the 2nd of December 2020, is not resolved in the favour of national government, then we will be required to cough up the 2.3 billion rand for salary adjustments and conditions of service improvements, which will cause a liquidity squeeze in the Western Cape. We have been arm wrestling with national government for some time on this matter, including warning the Minister of Finance, Tito Mboweni, in a letter dated the 5th of November 2020, that we regard the proposed reduction as unreasonable and unlawful because, as I put it in my letter, and I quote, national government cannot commit provinces to expenditure by negotiating and concluding agreements on their behalf, only then to deny them the funds by which to service those agreements, and to do so without engagement. We think this matter can be resolved with the guarantee from national government that should payment of the 2.3 billion rand for salary adjustments and condition of service improvements become due, the funds will be returned immediately to the Western Cape. We also suspect that the numbers have been bungled and that the 2.3 billion rand budget cut imposed, assuming that a wage freeze will hold, could be as much as 500 million more than it should have been in the Western Cape. We are not going to go down without a fight and will continue to robustly engage and arm wrestle with national government to get a fair deal for the Western Cape. Put simply, we cannot be expected to cough up 2.3 billion rand that we do not have in the Western Cape. Deputy Speaker, we have, as Premier Alan Winde reminded us in his special address, reached a fork in the road in the Western Cape. We have to face the fact that the demands on government have never been greater, but that there is significantly less money to do the job. And because of that, we will have to make difficult decisions in the Western Cape. We will have to prioritize by focusing on doing less, but doing it well. And so we will continue to focus on jobs, on safety, and on well-being over the medium term, which are the guiding lights of our recovery plan in the Western Cape. On jobs, we know that too many people do not have jobs or have given up looking for jobs in the Western Cape. So over the medium term, we will focus on improving ease of doing business, increasing investments in exports, boosting infrastructure, supporting small businesses, scaling up work opportunities and skills, and strengthening economic resilience in the Western Cape. On safety, we know that too many people have been victims of crime, especially violent crime in the Western Cape. So over the medium term, we will be focused on developing an integrated safety data system, increasing the number of boots on the ground to fight crime, boosting training of peace officers, and increasing the number of safety ambassadors driving violence prevention initiatives in the Western Cape. And on well-being, we know that too many people are not able to reach their full potential because they cannot access the services they need in the Western Cape. So over the medium term, we will focus on empowering people by providing innovative healthcare and strong foundations for young people, promoting physical and emotional health, meeting basic needs, and of course, building social cohesion across the Western Cape. However, to achieve this, we will have to innovate by finding smarter ways of doing things. We will have to spend less by finding cost-effective ways of doing things. And we will have to partner with the private sector to deliver public services in the Western Cape. So I'm pleased to announce that to support departments to manage what is going to be a difficult transition, we have established a fiscal transition for support facility, which will make available 1.7 billion rand over the medium term between 2021-22 and 2023-24 in the Western Cape. Put simply, the fiscal transition support facility is a 1.7 billion rand facility drawn from our provincial reserves that can be accessed by departments over the medium term to support them to find new and smarter ways of delivering services in the Western Cape. We will, for example, have to explore new and smarter ways of delivering infrastructure to drive economic growth and create jobs, by exploring new institutional arrangements to deliver infrastructure, and also exploring new forms of finance to prepare and deliver infrastructure, including reigniting public-private partnerships, which successfully delivered major projects in the past, and possibly borrowing under the borrowing powers of provincial government in the Western Cape. Deputy Speaker, the Procurement Disclosure Report, which was the first of its kind, has been expanded over time to include reports not just on the procurement of personal protective equipment, but all COVID-19 related expenditure across provincial departments and public entities in the Western Cape. However, to expand the level of transparency in our procurement system, we plan to progressively make public detailed information on a quarterly basis on all procurement via a quarterly procurement disclosure report, which is a further groundbreaking reform in the Western Cape. To make every cent count, we will also roll out an automated procurement planning tool to promote more efficient procurement planning and streamline procurement reporting across departments in the province. And, Deputy Speaker, we will pilot for the first time the use of artificial intelligence systems to provide us with tools to analyze years of data, to learn from the past, and to build better predictive capability and to build better detection capability in the Western Cape. Deputy Speaker, we have been prudent in the past and have built up significant provincial reserves in the Western Cape. However, we have been forced to draw down on the provincial reserves to support departments on the front line of the fight against the pandemic, to protect departments, especially education and health, from spending pressures, and of course to support departments transition to the new fiscal reality via the Fiscal Transition Support Facility. The drawdown amounts to R1 billion in 2021-22, 2.8 billion rand in 2022-23, and 3.7 billion rand in 2023-24. So we will have to replenish our reserves over the medium term, but we have significant or sufficient provincial reserves to deal with risks such as flooding, fire, and drought in the Western Cape. But what we cannot afford is another hard lockdown. And so we are also prepared and stand ready to support frontline departments to respond to the resurgence of the COVID-19 pandemic in the Western Cape. We have 227 million rand available on the Health Department's budget. We have 200 million rand available on the Transport and Public Works Department's budget. And we have 864 million rand available in the provincial reserves, all of which is available to fight the resurgence of COVID-19 infections in the Western Cape. Speaking in conclusion, we have mobilized a combined 1.4 billion rand support package for jobs, for safety, and for well-being in this financial year so that we can bounce back in the Western Cape. We have done so because when people have jobs, people have dignity. And when people have dignity, people have hope. Because when people are safe, people have dignity, and when people have dignity, people have hope. And because when people are empowered, people have dignity, and when people have dignity, people have hope in the future of the Western Cape. However, let us all be clear that the budget cuts which have been imposed by national government are drastic and will require us to have the courage to make difficult decisions in the Western Cape. To get the job done, as Premier Alan Winde reminded us in his special address in this Parliament a month ago, we will have to have the courage to, and I quote, make a tough call on what we will continue to do and what we will no longer do in the Western Cape. However, we can and we will do what it takes to bounce back in the Western Cape. Deputy Speaker, we have worked hard on the medium-term budget policy statement and the associated documents, day after day, night after night, and weekend after weekend at Provincial Treasury. We all owe a big thank you to Provincial Treasury's head official, David Savage, who together with Team Finance have done such a great job producing the Western Cape Second Adjustments Appropriation Bill 2020, the 2020 Western Cape Second Adjustments Estimates of Provincial and Revenue and Expenditure, the Western Cape Gazette of Allocations to Municipalities, an overview of adjusted provincial and municipal infrastructure investment 2020, and the 2020 Western Cape medium-term budget policy statement, which it gives me great pleasure to table today for deliberation and for consideration by the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. I would also like to thank Premier Alan Winde and my cabinet colleagues for their support in what has turned out to be one of the most challenging budget processes ever in the Western Cape. And finally, when it comes to the resurgence of COVID-19, we all have a role to play. We all have to play our part. And so, please wear your masks, sanitize, social distance, and stay home if you're sick. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister of Finance. The Secretary will read the bill a first time.
Weskaap se tweede aansuiveringsbegrotingswetsontwerp W7/2020.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The bill will be sent to all members electronically and a hard copy will follow. Honourable members, before we adjourn, I would like to remind the members that the Budget Committee meeting would commence after the adjournment of the sitting. The Secretary will now end the meeting and all members will be exited from the sitting. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.